YouTube, it's Tone. I'm back with another one for you. This one here is a continuation of the Foreclosure Defense Handbook. This is going to be the fifth video here on that. And let's get right into this. So, they're being paid not once but at least 3 times. How? Being in a capitalist society, making money is not only okay, but is encouraged. But where does making a profit end and extortion and greed begin? Number one, the banks risk none of their own money. One of the rules of capitalism is risk versus reward. With high risk comes high rewards. If they were able to create money out of thin air through the fractional reserve banking system and make 2.5 times the face value of a loan, we're talking about 10,000% return on cash. This is an awesome return. Sign me up any day. The banks got paid when they securitized the loan. As I discussed, they got paid between 1.05 times to 1.5 times the face value of the loan when they securitized, within days of closing your loan. They got paid for stock value appreciation. The lender also owns stock in the remix. They can own up to 10% of those trusts. So when the market went up, they profited from the appreciation of the asset. They got paid by TARP. They got paid over $3.5 trillion of taxpayers' money to do as they see fit, including buying up other banks. They got to keep your house on top of that. To add insult to injury, they also got to kick you out of your home, keep the house, and sell it again to the next sucker so they could repeat the scam. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of getting screwed. No one ever looks at the little guy. This is why I wrote the books, in the hopes that you will share it with your friends and neighbors so more Americans can wake up to this scam. I'm sure there are some people who disagree with what we're saying, but thank God that's still legal in this country. We each have the right to our own opinion. All I'm saying is enough is enough. And I mean, the shit is crazy too, because when you think about it, I mean, these people can think whatever the fuck that they want, but everything that we're talking about right here is actually law. It's written and coded, and it just is what it is, and it doesn't really matter what anybody else's fucking opinion is, because this is actually law, okay? So, regardless of what they've convinced you to believe or what the fuck that you think you know, this is what it is. Really simple. So when they threaten our homes, they threaten our families. The home is one of our most sacred assets. Without it, we are lost. Once they own our homes, they can use that to leverage us and further enslave us. The paraphrase, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, never back a rat into a corner. Never back a rat into a corner. Always leave a hole for the rat to escape, or else the rat will bite back. The bankers have backed us into a no-win situation. I hope that by educating you about this scam, you will decide to fight back. Now, will you decide to fight back? That's the question. A lot of you people are just gonna fucking go ahead and scroll on to the next video and pretend that you never saw this shit, so you won't admit to yourself that you don't have the fucking balls. But it is what it is. It's your life, you know what I'm saying? You live it how you want. So, the bloody road ahead. By all indications, 2011 and onwards will be even worse than before. More and more loans, known as option arms, adjustable rate mortgages, will come due, as many of these loans have a romance period of 3 to 5 years. Once these come due and the people's interest rates gets hiked up, more people will get into trouble with their loans. As of the middle of 2010, the great American public started learning about robo-signers and improper loan assignments. This has been all over the news, but as you have seen, the deceit goes much deeper than just the procedural errors. It is a massive and willful fraud committed by the banking cartel. It is anticipated that there will be a massive boom in the legal profession in the next 5 to 10 years in the area of foreclosure, defense, and litigation, because as more and more homeowners learn about the fraud, they will likely seek out professionals to seek relief from our predatory friends in the banking industry. Not only that, there will be more and more homeowners who have already lost their homes wanting to have their grievances redressed as they discover that their foreclosure was done fraudulently. There is no statute of limitations on fraud. This will mean that more and more lawyers will have plenty of opportunities to pursue civil actions against these lenders for real and punitive damages. This is a problem that will haunt the banking industry for years to come. I expect there will be a massive rise in advertising across the nation for wrongful foreclosure contingencies attorneys, in which attorneys will pursue clients who have lost their homes due to fraud for a big chunk of the settlement. This is why the people in the know in the banking industry are doing everything they can to keep the truth from coming out. The problem will result in a very significant and long-lasting implications in the banking industry for years to come. And I do think that that's going to be the case too. Not to mention the fact that the motherfuckers who are probably going to be doing that are going to be the friends of all the bankers, and they're probably just going to let them sue them for X amount, and they'll all just take a fucking cut. All right, so it's going to be win-win for all of them. So the collapse of the banking industry. If homeowners around the country start awakening to the fraud committed and started suing banks en masse, could this lead to a collapse in the banking industry? As much as I dislike the fraud that's being committed by our banking buddies, I do not relish the thought of the collapse of the banking industry. It's like a child behaving badly. I disapprove of the poor behavior, but I do not dislike the child. Let's not forget that we in the Western world have a lot to be grateful for, thankful to our banking friends. Much of our country's luxury and way of life is in part due to the banking system. A collapse of the banking system will hurt everyone and ruin any chance of economic recovery. I don't agree with that shit. I just read that, but I don't fucking agree with that at all. I think if everybody learns how to operate as a private banker, then there will be zero need for the fucking banks, to be 100% honest with you. No reason why everybody can't just be writing fucking money orders and sending it to the goddamn treasury. You don't fucking need a bank. So that said, Congress will never let this happen. This will likely be additional free bailout monies issued to cover our banking friends against any possible harm done to them. As we recall, they are simply too big to fail and beyond reproach. They hold too much sway in the government and fund most of the political contributions to our representatives. And that's not to mention, and this is me speaking, that's not to mention the fact that all these bankers, since they know how to fucking create all this money out of thin air and shit, they're the ones running all the drug cartels and the CIA and all that shit just as well. So they have the power just due to that fact, because they actually have the tangible assets, being the drugs and human smuggling and all that shit too. So they have a lot of pull just because they're the ones giving all these people money, because nobody really understands how the banking system works. That's what gives them the fucking power. It isn't because of a fucking bank and shit like that. That's because of what they really do behind the scenes. That's why. So, free lunch for homeowners? Another argument I have heard is that it is just another way for deadbeat homeowners to get away with a free lunch and stick it to the banks. At the expense of the homeowners' way, they pay their dues like everybody else. Nothing can be further from the truth. Most people who cannot afford to pay their mortgages are people who have lost their jobs as a result of the economy. Bad things sometimes happen to good people. This does not make them bad people. These are your friends, your neighbors, and your relatives who are suffering. The grievances we want to address are... Hang on, let me write this number down. The grievances that we want to address are: the housing bubble was caused by the banking industry out of greed. The banks have enjoyed record profits from the boom. The banks have been paid by Wall Street as well as by taxpayer money. The banks are not real parties of interest in foreclosure actions. The notes bought from the secondary markets are unsecured. Readhesion of assets that have been written off is illegal, immoral, and unconscionable. Haven't the people suffered enough? You gotta ask yourself, have they? It seems like everybody's a bunch of gluttons for abuse due to the fact that they just fucking take it on the chin and nobody wants to take the time to learn about what the fuck just happened to them, right? That shit is crazy. So the point is, even if every homeowner decides to stop paying their mortgages, the lenders are not harmed directly because they are nothing but a servicer. The people who are potentially harmed are the shareholders of the remit, but their losses are covered by the FDIC. The banks have a TARP money asset set aside for this purpose. They have already been covered for this loss. The law is the law. Banks cannot pick and choose which laws to use when it's convenient for them and which laws to ignore when it isn't. They cannot reattach an unsecured note that has been written off and con the homeowners into thinking that it is perfect without defects. So what these so-called lender servicers are doing is actually taking this opportunity to reap massive profits by acquiring people's houses for very little. They will then manipulate the market again to re-stimulate the economy and wait for the prices of the houses to rise so they can sell them for even more profits. I feel this is unethical and repugnant. All I'm saying is enough is enough. What I'm saying is that the fraud must stop. A foreclosure action must be done by a real party of interest, period. If it isn't, then there is nothing nothing more than theft and extortion. And that's exactly what the fuck it is, if you want to be real. It's extortion like a motherfucker is what it is. And you know, and I'm just curious, and to be honest, I'm just really curious if these judges and everybody that's involved with all these actions in court, these foreclosures, if they really don't know, or fucking do they know? You know what I'm saying? I do think that they do know, because I don't think that these people are fucking idiots at all. I think they're evil geniuses and they know exactly what the fuck that they're doing. Alright? So for that reason, I would have no mercy for them if it ever came down to where we had to fucking decide what we were going to do with these motherfuckers, to be honest with you. So opportunity for peace. I hope that by awakening more and more homeowners and people in the legal profession of the extent of the loan fraud, that our banking friends might decide to come clean. All we are asking is for a fair deal. People all around the country are suffering. All we're saying is enough is enough. Let the greed stop and let the compassion for each other begin. I hope to avoid the bloodbath of litigation ahead, as it will not be good for the banking industry, and ultimately it will come back to haunt everyone. Like I said, we need a strong and reliable banking system. I hope that the banks will feel that they can come back to the homeowners and proactively renegotiate home loans to make housing more affordable for everyone, to keep people in their homes. If the people in the banking industry can see that they are exposed to a massive amount of litigation damages if they continue with this fraud, and change their predatory ways, perhaps we might see some economic recovery, as more people can actually afford to stay in their homes and spend money to support the economy instead of feeding these fucking banking system clowns. I hope that both the people, the media, and the government and the banks can all work out an amicable accord to allow homeowners to stay in their homes. If not, then this country is headed toward a legal bloodbath. And to be honest with you, I don't even understand, you know, because everybody's always out here preaching all this fucking patriotic nonsense and really are just fighting against one another. When where the fuck is that patriotism when you know that these banks are fucking everybody and you guys continue to fucking do business with these motherfuckers? Bunch of pussies. If you want to be real, I'll just call it what it is. So, what are my options? The purpose of this book is to share some information with you. We hope that this is just the beginning of your educational journey. Again, please don't believe a word I say. Do your own research. Whatever you do, don't go back to your bank manager and demand justice. He is likely to be just as ignorant as everyone else is. This is a scheme that only a few people at the highest levels of banking and finance industry are aware of. And that is true. And the reason why you know that this is true, what he's saying about how very few people know about this, is because when you really start to learn about this banking industry and how it is, like even me operating as a private banker, you're not going to catch me going to fucking work a 9 to 5 at any of these fucking places. So that's how I know that none of these people know about this shit, because you would not fucking see them in there. Alright? So it's not going to do you any good to go in there and start fucking talking about this with them. They're going to think that you're fucking crazy because they've been programmed to believe something else. That's the thing, all right? So keep that in mind. Use some logic when you're fucking thinking about this. So it's not gonna help you to go in there and argue with these people. They more than likely don't have a clue either, because if they did, they probably wouldn't be working there. Look at it like that, okay? So don't go in half-cocked and demand that your bank show you that they are the real party of interest. Arm yourself with more information. If this book has inspired you to take action, then the next step is for you to learn more about this process so you can properly articulate and defend yourself. If you are facing a foreclosure, time is not on your side. Playing the ostrich game of hiding your head in the sand is not going to make the problem go away. The banks are going to steal your home and kick your family to the curb. We understand that many of you are facing foreclosure, are facing crippling depression, so that it is a struggle to even wake up and get dressed every day. We know, because we have been there. But really, your choices are very simple. Option number 1, give up, continue to feel sorry for yourself, wallow in your depression, and lose your home. Number 2, learn to fight, defend your rights, educate yourself, force your lender to prove standing. If you are inclined to learn more and educate yourself further, we've put together a series of videos to help you get up to speed quickly about the foreclosure defense. People have paid a lot of money to come to our seminars, including lawyers, to learn this information. We've invested thousands and thousands of hours researching this information so you can cut to the chase, like we said If you are facing foreclosure, time is not on your side. To learn more about foreclosure defense strategies, come to, and there's a link down here. Get the book so you can get this link if you can watch the videos if you're facing a foreclosure, all right? The book is free. Just email me. So do your own research. If you are interested in fighting a foreclosure, hang on, let me write this shit down. If you are interested in fighting a foreclosure, then you need to arm yourself with more information. Do not rely on the information contained in this book. This book should be used as a starting point and a framework only. Verify the facts. Don't believe a word I say. Consider this work of fiction. Discover your own truth. Seriously, I could be talking out of my ass and feeding you rubbish. You have no rights until you learn your rights. I want you to own the process. Research the laws. Start reading up on the laws around securitization. Interview a number of attorneys in town to see if there are any that would be willing to work with you and support you in this matter. Suing your lender. Oftentimes, challenging your lender to call them out on their bluff will invariably lead to litigation. For most people, the idea of suing a big corporation is enough to make them vomit. Most would rather eat maggots than to show up in the courtroom. Before you freak out, take a deep breath. It is not as bad as you think. Most of us fear the courtroom because of our mental association with courts. We tend to think that people only show up in court because they are criminals or they are being sued. It sucks being on the receiving end of a civil action. The table turns when you are the one doing the suing. It is on the other side of the bank that will go squirming. However, you can't just go about suing the bank for no reasons. The courts have rules. If you are going to accuse someone of something, you better have proof. That is in a nutshell. In other words, the plaintiff, the person doing the suing, has the burden of proof. You know what's funny with that? The courts are always charging people with these fucking corny ass, what do you call it? Criminal cases and shit like that without any proof. But they fucking demand that you have proof to go in there and sue someone, huh? It's crazy. So the second rule of court is that evidence is everything. Allegations are cheap. Anyone can accuse anybody of anything. But imagine if I had a picture of a guy holding a gun, pointing at a teller with a bag of money in his hands, plus another 10 people at the scene testifying to the fact this is something that is convincing enough to get the person convicted. And I think that would be convincing enough, aside from the fact that now, with CGI, you can literally paint anybody's face on anything. I don't even think videos are fucking good anymore, because you can literally do a fucking deep fake on somebody and you wouldn't even know the difference between a real video and a fake video. So I'm not even sure that videos would stand as facts anymore. So another thing you need to know about their court system is judges do not know the law. And they don't. What? That's insane. No, it's not. There are literally millions of laws out there. Criminal law, family law, contract law, intellectual property law, and so on. There is no way a judge could know every law that has ever been written. It is the responsibility of the litigant to bring the law before the judge so he or she can make a ruling based on the evidence of law. And that's the good thing about all this shit that we're doing here, is that we have codes and statutes to back up everything that we're talking about. Nobody here is fucking, none of this shit is speculation, okay? So if you were to come to the court showing the judge where your lender is breaking the law by bringing the appropriate laws before the court, would you feel a little better about going to court? I think you would. If you were then able to come to court with 10 reams of paper full of evidence showing where the bank lied, cheated, and stole money, and you were backed up by an expert witness to use as to be an ex-banker, would you feel a little bit better? Would the bank feel a little squirmy? You see the difference? You need to learn to build your case. Imagine if you have done all the research, but your arguments gathered a bunch of evidence about the fraud and presented this argument to a lawyer. Do you think that it is more likely that she will be on your side rather than tell you to take a hike? I would hope so. The problem is most people think the bank is the lender and that they do have a right to foreclose. But we know better than that. The key in successfully defending against foreclosure is building and gathering your evidence. So this is why you need to get familiar with the administrative process, because essentially you want to be able to get your summary judgment before you even go into court, and that's by backing them into your position and judgment using administrative law. That is court. So communicating with your lender. Under the Truth in Lending Act, you are entitled to demand a full disclosure from your lender. Before jumping off the deep end, the best place to start is to write to your lender to discover who they are. That might sound strange, but they are not who you think they are. You will often discover that they are in fact not a lender at all, but they are a servicer pretending to be your lender. Try writing to your lender and ask them the following point blank. Under the Truth in Lending Act, I have a right to know who the true party of interest is in this transaction. Please stipulate whether you are a holder in due course for my promissory note. If you are not the holder, then you admit to being a servicer of this obligation. I demand that you tell me who the holder in due course is. Please also stipulate for the record whether or not my loan has been securitized, and if so, what the name of the remic and the trust of my loan is bundled with. This will give you a lot of surprising information and will help you towards getting proof of their fraud. You might have to write 2 or 3 letters before you get a valid response. Many times, bank will not want to reveal their fraud. They will likely respond with a standard letter created by a no-name, minimum wage employee to the effect of, your request is denied. There is no law that requires us to produce your note. Your request is frivolous. We will continue to enforce the obligation. These letters are not signed, and they never sign that. Kind of like the fucking faggot-ass letters that I got from the TDA department, the Treasury Direct Account people. When they start fucking making all these crazy ass claims, but nobody wants to put their name on the shit. Straight fucking pussies. So there is no name for on the response. You might have to copy your letter to the FTC as well as to the comptroller of the currency, the body that governs the banking in the U.S. It is absolutely insulting. And so these are some of the things that you'll deal with if you start to enter into litigation, which essentially is the administrative process with these people. And I would refuse anything that they send me and send it back, reject it if it doesn't come to you in the form of an affidavit signed under the penalty of perjury. This is how you're going to have your correspondence with them. And this is how you back them into your fucking judgment. Because they have nothing. Alright? Just know that. So it is a game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these clowns. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.